Hello, Dismantling here with another top 5 episodes of Billy and Mandy. This time we'll be going over Season 3. So let's get started with my top favorite picks for Season 3 of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Number 5. My Peeps. Due to constant abuse of his retinas, Billy discovers that he has eye issues. So, Grim and Mandy take him to an eye doctor to get it fixed. Ultimately, Billy decides against it, and Grim tries to fix it, thus giving Billy sort of future death vision. He starts to see grotesque images of the future, everything from accidents to possible deaths, etc. I like this episode because of several reasons, mainly due to the animation. When Billy is given death vision, a lot of grotesque imagery is given, like when he sees Erwin just riding his bike, but to him he sees Erwin mangled up in this horrible state. And it's a little too much for a kid's cartoon, which is what I like about the show. I also love the different animation styles they get when Grim is zapping Billy's eyes to try to fix it. My favorite being the anime vision, because we've all seen the fan-drawn images of Billy and Mandy in a manga-like style, and it's nice to see the show do it. I also like that there's no true resolution to this episode. I've said previously that that's what I like about the show, how sometimes they didn't really have a resolution to the episode, or it felt like it was a bit unfinished, or that a resolution was done off screen. This is one of those episodes. Number 4, Tricycle of Terror. This episode has a very predictable plot, which is why it didn't get higher up on the list, but it doesn't necessarily make it not good. This episode is a Stephen King parody. Billy, after destroying his bike, winds up in a magical porta potty where he is given a new tricycle. Billy is constantly teased for having a tricycle by Puddin', Erwin, and Spurg, and the tricycle goes and deals with them in its own violent fashion. The main thing I liked about this episode was that you actually got a lot of good exchanges coming from Puddin', Spurg, and Erwin. A lot of times you didn't really hear much from Pudding, but every time, once in a while, you'd hear something from Erwin and Spurg, from the show in general, so it was nice to see something from them all.
Hey, you remember earlier, yo? When we called Billy a baby?
Yeah, that was awesome.
And then, when he cried all the way home?
Yeah.
It's nice that it wasn't me for a change.
It's a classic premise, a little too predictable, and very similar to the Kids Next Door tricycle episode with the Tommy, except instead of the tricycle growing to large proportions and destroying everyone's trikes, you have the trikes destroying the owners themselves. Number 3, Toys Will Be Toys. This episode, at the beginning, almost was a coming-of-age story that they just completely threw out the window. Whenever the show tried to take itself seriously, you knew that wasn't going to last very long. Beginning of this episode, Billy's playing with his Dinobanoids toys, and Mandy points out that everyone in the neighborhood is laughing at him for doing such childish things. So he decides that maybe it is time to let go of his toys. Grim gives him one last chance to play with his toys by shrinking him down to their size and bringing them to life. This episode has a lot going for it. Number 1, the Dinobanoids and the Jurassic Creeps are Transformer parodies down to heart, and they actually got the voice for Megatron for the Jurassic Creeps. Frank Welker is the voice of the lead Jurassic Creep.
Ooh, kitty.
Shoot it!
Good kitty.
Side note, did you know that he does a lot of small, animal roles? He was the non-credited voice for Frankenweenie. He was Faffy from Dave the Barbarian. He was the footstool in Beauty and the Beast, and he was also Goddard from Jimmy Neutron. But outside of the Transformers parody, there is a lot of funny interactions between the toys and the people of Ennsville. One being Puddin', who chooses one of the Dinobanoids to be teething on, and treats them like their dolls, and Grim, who bonds with the Jurassic Creeps over overall having a lifestyle that he did not see for himself. In the end, Billy did have a coming-of-age resolution, but it was kind of blocked out by the fact, well, I don't want to give it away. Number 2, Scarred for Life. This is the first episode where General Scar from the show Evil Kong Carney appears as Billy's neighbor. In this episode, we are told, via Lorax style, the story of how Scar came to live in Endsville and become Billy's neighbor. Scar decides to move to suburbia and give up his old ways of being a general once the Evil Kong Carney group got bought out by a entertainment network, probably referring to Cartoon Network, and he meets Billy for the first time. Billy questions him about his past, and he explains that he used to be a general in a fearsome army, and Billy tries to bait him with Grimm's sight, telling him that it will give him ultimate power to rule the world and bring evil. Scar then battles, not very long may I add, with his need to fit into suburbia and be the perfect neighbor, and his old ways of being an evil general. This episode's fun because, well, Scar's a funny character, and I actually prefer him in this show than in Evil Kong Carney. I like the idea of him wanting to fit into suburbia, but then overall giving into his older, more primitive urges of being complete evil. In the old show, he was actually quite competent, but was always brought down by his boss. In this episode, he's not very competent. He does manage to get what he wants, but then is brought down by Mandy. And my number 1 pick is Attack of the Clowns. This is probably one of the more iconic episodes of the series, and not only that, it's one of my favorites of the whole show in general. In this episode, Mandy and Grimm try to help Billy conquer his fear of clowns. Every part of this episode is hilarious. Number 1, I think we can all identify this.
Destroy us all! 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 Destroy us all!
I'll take the chicken.
Destroy us all!
Number 2, there wasn't a single moment in this episode, no matter how many times I watch it, I can't stop laughing. Even when we look into Billy's inner psyche, whether it be the dream at the beginning, or it be his talk with his inner frat boy.
And just because someone looks different than you, or thinks differently than you, doesn't mean you should be afraid of them. It means you should be angry at them. How dare they be different?
And Mandy and Grimm's attempts to stop Billy from being afraid of clowns, and thusly make it worse, is hilarious. I don't know what the writers were doing with this episode, but whatever they were doing it right. There's not a moment in this episode where I wasn't cracking up. And there's not a moment in this episode that's not messed up.
And where do you think you're going? Listen, stop being afraid of clowns! Stop it, you ninny! Stop it, okay? Stop being afraid of clowns!
If you haven't seen this episode, I highly recommend it. I'm trying not to give too much away, and a lot of this is sort of, you have to see it to get the jokes. With that are my top 5 picks for the Season 3 of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. In the comments, feel free to let me know what your favorite episodes are, from this season or from the show in general. Feel free to like and subscribe, or check out my blog at www.colormegoff.com. See you next Saturday with another one of these countdowns.